Did you hear the big news that was announced somewhere? Somebody tweeted the article, so I don't even know where it was because I've lost that. But Sabu has announced his in-ring retirement.
I had not heard that, no.
And I just wanted to recognize that because Sabu's a legendary figure in the modern day wrestling scene, but I'm wondering when he was going to announce this, because he's 57. He's 3 years younger than me, and I've never done split-legged, triple jump, barbed wire rope moonsaults, and he's had a lot more damage on his body than I have. So I would think that
he was moonsaulting through tables, remember, before they were cutting down tables, before they would do anything to ease it up. Yes. He was just taking real tables that weren't gimmicked, and time after time until they broke, flinging himself through them. It was brutal.
And the first time that I saw it, because I've got to admit, when you first saw Sabu and before injuries, and he was doing, and it was stuff that was, more outrageous than anybody else was doing in terms of the athleticism and the flipping and the flying and the, crashing. And, but the one thing he was just breaking the table without anybody being on it. And I know it was because he was crazy, but I just wondered, why is he mad at the table? What did the table do to him? But anyway, no, I don't know. Has he wrestled recently over the past few years? Because I had heard he'd had an injury or some type of surgery a while back.
I can't remember the last time I heard him working. Obviously there was a pandemic going on, and I did hear about his girlfriend unfortunately passed away a few months back. Super
Melissa.
Genie. Yeah.
Melissa Coates, who's spent a lot of time at OVW. What a sweet girl she was.
But can I ask you a question about Sabu? I mean, I'm sure this probably wouldn't be fun for him and not what he wanted to do, but if he really did want to continue in the ring and continue in the business, is it crazy to think he could wrestle like his uncle and not do the moonsaults and not do any of that stuff, but go out there and just be a crazy looking guy in a turban stabbing people?
Well, see, that's what I was going to say is Sabu, the reason why I was surprised that he announced his retirement now and he's 57 is because I thought that he probably already had quit a few years ago, and with the pandemic, as you said, obviously. But you can't, that's one thing that a lot of these guys are going to realize later on. You can't be that person past a certain age, and Sabu, with all his injuries, I probably pressed right up against the boundary of the age you could still do that last time he was doing it. And the Sheik never did that. The Sheik could still do the Sheik when he was 60 like he could when he was 40. It was a little bit different appearance, but you still had the aura and the reputation by then. But the guys who do high flying, high risk, basically just risky stuff like that, you've got your clock is ticking. So I would have thought that maybe if Sabu wanted to transition into a style like that, he would have done it the last several years that he was really actively wrestling on a semi-regular basis. But maybe he just wanted to be Sabu, as long as he could. But yeah, the Sheik, until pretty much the end, he could do what the Sheik did because it was all about just violence and chaos and the aura that he had, and stabbing people and or bashing them with objects, but not in a cooperative way like they do in garbage wrestling, but where the whole idea was that he's trying to start a riot by convincing people that he's fucking pretty much attempting to murder somebody. And it worked for 40 years. I saw it live on numerous occasions. Grown men running from the Sheik if he fucking did that toward him. Jumping over chairs, as a matter of fact. But so anyway, I think that's, I wish Sabu the best, but that's what, is going to be the future for a lot of guys whose only concern, and I'm not saying this was Sabu, but I'm saying with the guys today going way farther than he ever did, if their only concern is perfecting their high flying, then they better have a transition strategy ready, because you can't be a high flyer in your 50s. But if you have a personality and a reputation, and you've established a style or something that you can continue to do, you can be there as long as you want to be.
And in terms of legacy, in those early days of ECW under Paul Heyman, before anyone cared about Tommy Dreamer or the Sandman or any of the homegrown talent, the two reasons that tape traders or people like me were excited about ECW were Terry Funk and Sabu. Those were the two reasons. And maybe eventually the curiosity to see Shane Douglas curse, because that was a novelty at the time. But it was Sabu and Terry Funk.
That's like when you first heard, Bob Saget do his stand-up instead of being the jovial fellow on fucking Tool Time or whatever. But yeah, they got a lot of attention. And if you notice, everybody of all of the ECW top guys, you mentioned Sabu and Terry Funk, and then what's Shane Douglas going to say, etc. Everybody completely different. It's another thing Paul had on the ball, is that he didn't have a bunch of guys that looked or acted or spoke or dressed similarly to each other, unless they were obviously together in a fucking group. And you could tell who everybody was, and everybody was doing their different thing.